My name is Lottie Atkins and I work for the Colville Tribe Veterans Resource Program here in Muskegon, Washington. We provide assistance so that the veterans may apply for a claim to get financial benefits for injuries they received while they were in service. And we also help the veteran get medical assistance for any health issues that they may be experiencing. We also are helping veterans with homelessness. We had a VA office here that provides assistance for the homeless veterans in the area, and you don't need to be a Colville tribal member. You can be a member of any tribe or a veteran of any other race. Also, this program has an honor guard services that we do for all of our veterans.
My name is Mel Tonasket. I'm a member of the Colville Confederated Tribes. I live in Omak, Washington. And I was in the Navy. I joined the Navy in 1958. Was sent to a spy school, really, in Maryland after boot camp. And then I was part of the U.S. Naval Security Group. And I tell you that part of it because I think it's important. What I learned there helped me as a councilman later on in life of the Colville Tribal Council. We also found something really strange that most people don't know, that the names of the people who came up in developing our relocation program, the Indian relocation program, some of those same names came up in the Japanese relocation program during the Second World War, at the start of the Second World War. So the Japanese were caught in the same boat by the same people as our people were. So it's the mentality of this country is just bad, and it's getting worse under Trump, I think. I was elected in '70. It was the same time that Bernie White Bear was getting Indians to climb the fence at Fort Lawton. And my parents went over there to be with them at the gates during the protests. So when Bernie eventually won the right to some of that property, he came over and asked me, and I was elected to the council, if I would be willing to be on one of his first boards of directors, and I said, of course. So I got to be there when we didn't have nothing on Fort Lawton except the dream. The dream was to build a center. The dream was to have education out there. The dream was to have a head start. The dream was to have a place where the Indians could powwow. And so we had a lot of dreams. Also on the board of directors with us was Joe Dela Cruz, who was the president, they call him the president of the Quinault Nation. It would be a chairman to us, but he was also on the board. And so between us, the Quinaults and the Colvilles, we donated enough lumber, him for his big trees and us for our fir and pine, to start the the project to develop the actual building of the Daybreak Star Center. Well, we all need each other. And I think Daybreak Star Center and United Indian of all Tribes shows that we do need each other, and it brings us together. I love Bernie. He was kind of the heart of the Indian community there, and it's probably the best times that I've had as an Indian politician is working with Bernie and then his associates.
My name is Wilfred Louie, actually known by Deb Louie. I'm a Colville tribal member. I was born November 4th, 1945 in Muskegon, Washington. in the early 60s, after I graduated from high school, I went to Haskell for 2 years. And the summer of 66, we were relocated to California, but I couldn't handle it down there. So when I came home, my grandmother, who raised me, handed me a letter, and I opened it, and I was drafted into the Army. And so back in that time, the furthest I ever been away from home was Haskell in California. As a res boy, we never traveled very much. So that, and also that summer, I met Jeannie, my wife. We've been married 53 years. I was sent to the 7th Special Forces in Fort Bragg. Then eventually I put enough 1049 forms, that's a form volunteering to go to Vietnam, that they finally got tired of me and sent me, of September 67. And that's when Jeannie and I got married, September 25th. 6 days later, I was sent to Vietnam. So we always say that was probably one of our best years of marriage. We never had one fight, so we got along pretty good that first year. But in that year over there, from the town I'm from Nespelem, there were 4 of us there at the same time: Donnie James, his brother Jimmy James, Dale Lambert, and me. Dale Lambert never made it back. They just had something honoring him this past year. But in the town of Nespelem, I did a count, and we was up to, our population is 300, and I was up to a count of over 33 of our boys that was in Vietnam at the time, which is a little over 10% of our population. So they said back in that era, there was no men in the town of Nespelem. They were all in the war. A Vietnam veteran cannot stand to be told what to do or ordered around. They just couldn't do that. And so I was allowed to work for my tribe for 20 years in my mountains, to be away from everyone and just be with my Indian friends, people I could I really knew. They were just friends that I knew. So I was really fortunate I got to work out there to support my family. And then later on, in 1990, I got elected on a tribal council, which I was very honored. That's probably the highest honor I'll ever achieve in my lifetime. But in that first year, in 1990, I went to a meeting at affiliated tribes of Northwest Indian, and they have committees there. And as a young councilman back there going to the different committees, I seen on the form where they had a veterans committee. And so I said, well, I should probably go see what they're talking about anyway. So I went in there and I just listened. And I seen this white lady come in the door, and Joe J., who's gone now to the other world, had asked each individual in there why they were there. And so each one went around and told why they're there. And as a young councilman, I just told Joe J. that I was just here to listen, to try to learn something. And it come to this white lady, and she said that she's here today to try to find out what happened to her husband. He was a really good man when he left for Vietnam. When he come back, she don't know who he was or what happened to him. She wanted to know what happened to him.
The things that happened in Vietnam, Deb doesn't talk too much about. I got to meet him for R&R in Hawaii after the first year. And he was in Vietnam for 2 years. When he came back, he was stationed in Fort Bragg along with his other buddies, and he was in the airborne or parachute school, I think 101st Airborne, and from there we went back to Nespelem. We had a small daughter at the time. Our oldest daughter was Debbie, and it was really difficult on the children because of the way he was when he got back. You couldn't, when he was in a sleeping or a dead sleep, you couldn't just go wake him up without him jumping up and punching you. Or so the kids would always go in with a broomstick to wake up their dad. And he was a different person. He wasn't as happy and outgoing as he used to be. He was mean and ornery. It took him quite a few years to, I think, get back to the person that he used to be. And during that time, I was working with Ann George, one of our elders. She worked in probates, and so she encouraged me to join the Women's Auxiliary, because at the time we had a pretty robust auxiliary unit and the guys' veterans unit. And so I helped with what the auxiliary did with Ann George, Virginia Red Star, Delia Covington, Ida Williams or Ida Tamantois, and several of the younger ladies that also joined us. And so for all the functions that the veterans held, we participated and did our part for Nispelum's auxiliary and for the guys, the veterans. And the time came for when we were into the other wars that happened, and that was like Desert Storm. And so they put out a notice that they wanted the veterans and the auxiliary to join the community to lead it in doing a march or a parade to offer up prayers and support our young ones that were currently in the service. And our daughter Deborah was in the Marine Corps, and she was serving at that time as an embassy duty officer. And so my husband wasn't too comfortable about marching or parades. He never was one to get out and do that kind of thing. But when I told him what it was for, that it was for our kids that were out there fighting the war now, and help them, pray for them.
I'm Colville tribal member Arnold Cleveland, and I was born in Ellensburg, Washington in 1939, March. So presently I'm right in the neighborhood of 81 years, and returned back to San Diego, where I was assigned to the motor transport company. I spent a little over 6 years as active duty there, and I was retired February 1st, 1963. So I'd spent those 6 years, 4 months and 5 days in the Marine Corps. In the Marine Corps, I was very gung-ho. At the time, my thoughts and desires were to make a career of the Marines. But we had a falling out with the upper echelon, and I decided to get out. But at the time, like I say, there was no benefits. In 2009, a friend of mine was a veteran service officer in Lake County, California, and he informed me that the rules had changed and that I could get the benefits from the VA. And I did. I joined up, and I have thankfully received the VA health care since that time. When I was 70 years old, I rode the bicycle across the United States, and with the help of my friend Gail at the time, it was a physical, what would you call it? Physical challenge here. So since that time, I got involved by choice with the veterans group for the Colville tribe. We attended a funeral right up here in the Okanagan Cemetery, and I met the leader of the time of the Honor Guard, Arnie Holt, and I just mentioned to him that I enjoyed their honorary presentations that they did for the deceased veteran. And he just up and asked me, "You want to join us?" And I said, "Sure." So since that time, that was also in 2012. So roughly right now it's been 8 years, and I have been glad to participate in the different activities. It's not only for veterans' funerals, but we've opened for some of the powwows. We've been in several parades. We've done a lot of activities for. And in closing, I would just like to say that I like to say a little thank you and a little my kind of prayer, you know, to the Creator. I have my own beliefs, and I don't like to preach them because I still believe that each one of us as individuals can have and carry our own spiritual, religious, whatever you want to call them, beliefs and the feelings in our hearts and souls. And mine is through the music. I enjoy playing music both for self-feelings, entertainment, but also to say a prayer to and send it to the Creator. And so in closing, again, I would like to say thank you, Mike, and for giving me this opportunity, and I hope it fulfills part of the requirements that you are looking for. So with that, I would like to say thank you, Creator, and this is my magic spiritual flute. And so in closing, again, thank you.